The little girl had chosen him. Out of all the beings in the crowded relief station, she had walked past dozens of her own kind, ignored the medical staff, and planted herself directly in front of Marcus Chen's repair bench. "You fix things," she said. It wasn't a question. Marcus looked up from the water purifier he was reassembling and found himself staring into 4 luminous amber eyes. The child couldn't have been more than 5 cycles old, maybe 6 in human years, her silver blue skin still carrying that iridescent shimmer that Velorian children lost as they matured. She clutched a ragged stuffed creature that might have once been some kind of 6-legged mammal. "I do," he said carefully. "Machines, mostly." She held out the toy. One of its legs dangled by a thread, and something inside its body rattled when she moved it. "Kip is broken." Marcus had been on Veloria Station for 3 months, helping rebuild infrastructure after the collapse. He'd fixed generators, filtration systems, communication arrays, things that kept people alive. He'd never been asked to fix a toy. "What's your name?" he asked. "Nira. She pushed the toy closer to his face. "Kip doesn't purr anymore. Nira." A sharp voice cut through the ambient noise of the station. "Ain't dine." Marcus looked up to see a Velorian woman pushing through the crowd, her expression caught somewhere between relief and mortification. She was tall, as most of her species were, with the same silver-blue coloring as the child but darker, like deep ocean water. Her 4 eyes, 2 large, 2 smaller above, fixed on him with unmistakable suspicion. "I apologize," she said, reaching for the girl. "She knows not to bother the human workers. She's not bothering me." Marcus surprised himself by saying it. Even more surprising was that he meant it. "She just wants me to fix her." "Kip, thought." The woman's posture shifted, some of the tension leaving her shoulders. "She's been carrying that thing since before the collapse. It hasn't worked properly in months." "The sound mechanism," Nira said solemnly. "Kip purrs when I squeeze him, but now he just clicks." Marcus turned the toy over in his hands. The construction was simple enough. Pressure sensor, small speaker, basic circuit. Child's toy technology was universal, apparently. "I think I can help Kip," he said. "But I'll need to take him apart. Is that okay?" Nira's lower eyes narrowed, while her upper ones widened, an expression Marcus had learned meant serious consideration among Velorians. After a moment, she nodded. "Nira, we shouldn't," the woman began. "Mama, he fixes things." The child said it with absolute certainty, as if this explained everything. Marcus pulled a small toolkit from under his bench and began carefully opening the toy's back panel. The mother stood frozen, clearly torn between dragging her daughter away and something else. Curiosity, maybe. "I'm Marcus," he said without looking up. "I'm one of the engineers working on the water systems." "Seleth," she replied after a pause. "We live in Section 14, the section with the power fluctuations. You know of it? I fixed the secondary relay there last week." He found the problem, a cracked pressure plate that was triggering the wrong sound file. The purr mechanism was intact, it just wasn't receiving the signal. "Your daughter's toy isn't broken, exactly. It's just confused about what sound to make." He pulled a tube of conductive adhesive from his kit, applied a careful line along the crack, and pressed the plate back together. Then he closed the panel and handed the toy to Nira. "Try it now." The girl squeezed, and a soft rumbling purr filled the space between them. Her whole face transformed, all 4 eyes crinkling, her small mouth stretching into a smile that showed rows of tiny pearl-like teeth. "Kip!" She clutched the toy to her chest and looked at Marcus with an expression of such pure gratitude that something shifted in his chest. "You fixed him." "It was a small thing," he said. Nira shook her head firmly. "It was not small. Kip is my friend." She turned to her mother. "Mama, the human fixed Kip." Seleth's expression was complicated. Gratitude, yes, but also something guarded. "Thank you," she said. "We should go. Let the man return to his work." But Nira didn't move. She was staring at Marcus with that intense 4-eyed focus again. "Will you be here tomorrow, Nira?" "Probably," Marcus said. "I have more purifiers to fix." The child nodded as if this confirmed something important. Then she let her mother guide her away, but she looked back 3 times before they disappeared into the crowd. Marcus returned to his work, but his hands moved automatically while his mind wandered. There was nothing unusual about a child seeking help for a broken toy. Nothing unusual about a mother being protective in a relief station full of strangers. Nothing unusual about any of it. So why did he keep glancing toward Section 14? Nira came back the next day, and the day after that, and every day for the following 2 weeks. At first, she just watched him work, sitting on an overturned crate with Kip in her lap. She asked questions, simple ones at first, then increasingly complex as she figured out that Marcus would actually answer them. "What does that do?" Why is water so hard to clean? How do machines know what to do? Her mother appeared periodically, always with that same mixture of wariness and reluctant gratitude. She'd collect Nira, apologize for the intrusion, and lead the child away. But Marcus noticed that each day, Seleth lingered a little longer before approaching. Watched, from a little closer. She's not usually like this, Seleth said on the 9th day. She'd stopped pretending she was just there to retrieve her daughter, and had settled onto a nearby bench, watching Nira explain the water purification process to Kip with impressive accuracy. She doesn't attach to people. Kids attach to whoever pays attention to them. Marcus tightened a coupling and wiped his hands on his work pants. I'm not doing anything special. You are, though. Seleth's voice was quiet. She lost her father in the collapse. She hasn't spoken to any adult males since then, not one. She flinches when they get too close. She paused. She doesn't flinch with you. Marcus didn't know what to say to that. He watched Nira demonstrate the water cycle using Kip as a prop, something about the toy becoming rain, and felt that strange pressure in his chest again. I'm sorry about her father, he finally said. He was a good man. A good father. Seleth's larger eyes stayed fixed on her daughter, while her smaller ones flicked to Marcus. Nira was there when the ceiling collapsed. She saw everything. God. The word escaped before he could stop it. I don't know your God, but yes. Whatever that means in your language, yes. They sat in silence for a moment. Nira had moved on to explaining something about fish, though Marcus was fairly certain she'd never seen a fish in her life. Why do you think she chose you? Seleth asked. Out of everyone? Marcus had wondered the same thing. He'd spent hours turning the question over, examining it from every angle the way he'd examine a broken machine. I don't know, he admitted. Maybe because I was sitting still, working with my hands? Maybe I looked safe. Many people were sitting still. Many people work with their hands. Seleth's gaze was heavy on him now. She walked past all of them to get to you. Maybe she could tell I'm good at fixing things. Maybe. Seleth didn't sound convinced. Or maybe she could tell you're good at other things. Before Marcus could ask what that meant, Nira bounded over with Kip raised triumphantly above her head. Mama. I told Kip about water, and now he wants to know about electricity. Can the human tell him about electricity? The human has a name, Seleth said mildly. Nira said it carefully, testing each syllable. Marcus. Can Marcus tell Kip about electricity? Marcus looked at Seleth, waiting for permission he suddenly realized he needed. She held his gaze for a long moment, something shifting behind those 4 amber eyes. If Marcus wants to, she said finally. And only if you don't bother him when he's working on important things. Nira's entire body vibrated with excitement. I won't bother. I'm very good at being quiet. Kip is too. She turned to Marcus with devastating sincerity. We're very quiet. I've noticed, Marcus said, and found himself smiling. That afternoon, he taught Nira about circuits, using bits of wire and a small light to show how electricity flowed. She absorbed information like a sponge, asking questions that made him think harder than most of his engineering courses had. Seleth stayed for the whole lesson. She didn't say much, but Marcus caught her watching him with that complicated expression, the one he couldn't quite decode. When they left, Nira insisted on hugging him. It was quick and fierce, her small arms barely reaching around his waist. Marcus froze, acutely aware of Seleth's gaze on him. Thank you for teaching Kip, Nira said seriously. You're welcome. She grabbed her mother's hand and pulled her towards section 14. Seleth looked back once, and this time she wasn't guarded. She was curious. The next day, she brought him lunch. You work through meals, she said, setting a container on his workbench. Nira was concerned. Or you were concerned. Seleth's smaller eyes crinkled, the Velorian equivalent of a smirk. Perhaps both. The food was Velorian, some kind of grain with vegetables and a sauce that tasted faintly of something citrus-like. It was good. Better than the protein bars he'd been surviving on. This is delicious, he said between bites. You made this? The station kitchens are functional now, but yes, I prepared it myself. She sat on the crate that had become Nira's unofficial spot. She talks about you constantly. At breakfast, at dinner, before she sleeps. Marcus says this. Marcus showed me that. I know more about water purification than any Velorian should. Sorry. Don't be. Seleth leaned forward slightly. She's talking again. Laughing again. She had nightmares every night for 4 months after the collapse. Last night she dreamed about building a machine that would clean all the water on Veloria. She woke up, excited, not screaming. Marcus set down his fork. That's not because of me. It's partly because of you. Her voice was firm. I'm her mother. I've been with her every moment since the collapse. I've held her through every nightmare, dried every tear. But I couldn't reach her. Not fully. Not until a stranger fixed her toy. Until the right stranger fixed her toy. Seleth's larger eyes met his directly. Children know things, Marcus. They don't have the filters that adults develop. They see people as they are, not as they present themselves to be. What does Nira see when she looks at me? The question came out before he could think better of it. Seleth considered it seriously, the way she seemed to consider everything. Safety, she said finally. Patience. Someone who would never hurt her, even by accident. She paused. Someone who fixes things. I'm just an engineer. You're not just anything. Seleth stood, smoothing her clothing, and what Marcus had learned was a nervous gesture. I should let you eat and work, Seleth. She paused. Thank you. For the food. She nodded, and for just a moment, her expression softened into something almost tender. Then she was gone, and Marcus was left with half a container of Velorian cuisine and a growing suspicion that he was in way over his head. The crisis came without warning, as crises do. Marcus was in Section 14. He'd started taking some of his repair work there, telling himself it was more efficient than hauling parts across the station, when the alarm sounded. Not the general alert that signaled a maintenance issue, but the three-tone pulse that meant external threat. Raiders, Seleth said, appearing at his side with Nira clutched to her chest. The station's been spotted. We have to get to the shelters. Marcus grabbed his toolkit, useless against raiders, but instinct was instinct, and followed her into the corridor. People were streaming toward the central shelters, but Section 14 was on the station's edge. They'd have to cross through open sections to reach safety. They made it halfway before the first impact hit. The station shuddered, lights flickering. Someone screamed. Marcus felt Seleth stumble beside him and reached out automatically, steadying her with a hand on her arm. Keep moving, he said. Another impact, closer this time. The lights died completely, emergency strips flickering to life along the floor. In the dim red glow, Marcus could see Nira's face, eyes wide, body rigid, silent in a way that was worse than screaming. Nira.I. He crouched down, putting himself at eye level with her. Hey, can you look at me? Her eyes found his. She was shaking. Remember what I told you about circuits? How electricity has to have a path to follow. She nodded, barely perceptible. We're going to make a path to the shelter. Just like electricity. One step at a time. Can you count our steps? Another nod. Good. Hold on to Kip, and let's start counting. 1, 1, she whispered. They moved through the darkened corridors, Nira counting each step in a small, steady voice. Marcus stayed close, one hand hovering near her back without touching, ready to shield her if the walls came down. Seleth moved on her daughter's other side, her 4 eyes scanning constantly for danger. They were almost to the shelter when the third impact struck directly above them. The ceiling cracked. Debris began to fall. And Marcus moved without thinking, throwing himself over Nira and Seleth both, his back to the falling wreckage. Something hit his shoulder, hard. Something else grazed his head. He heard Seleth cry out, felt Nira go rigid beneath him. But he didn't move. Couldn't move. Not until the rumbling stopped. Stay down, he breathed. Stay down, stay down. The debris settled. The corridor groaned but held. Marcus risked lifting his head and found himself inches from Seleth's face. Her eyes were wild, searching. Nira, I'm okay. The small voice came from beneath them both. Mama, Marcus, we're okay. Marcus rolled off them carefully, biting back a groan as his shoulders screamed in protest. Everyone's okay. Seleth sat up, pulling Nira into her arms. Then she looked at Marcus, really looked at him, and her expression shattered into something raw. You covered us. Her voice cracked. You could have run. You covered us. You're between me and the shelter. I had to go through you anyway. The joke fell flat, but Marcus couldn't find better words. His head was ringing. You're bleeding. Seleth reached out, her fingers brushing his temple. They came away silver. No, wait, that was red. Human blood, just looked different in this light. I'm fine. You're not fine. She was already tearing a strip from her sleeve, pressing it to his wound. You protected us. You. She stopped, jaw working. Why? Because you needed protecting. We're strangers to you. Aliens. Why would you, Mama? Nira's voice cut through her mother's spiraling words. The child had stopped shaking. She was looking at Marcus with that intense focus, all 4 eyes clear and certain. He fixes things. Something passed between mother and daughter. Something Marcus wasn't fully part of, but could feel the edges of. Then Seleth let out a breath that sounded like it had been held for months. Yes, she said softly. He does. They made it to the shelter. Marcus's shoulder was dislocated. The station's medic popped it back into place with cheerful brutality, and he had a concussion that would need watching. But they were alive. All of them. The raid passed. Raiders took what they could from the outer sections and fled before the station's defenses could fully mobilize. It could have been worse. It had been worse for other stations. Seleth refused to leave Marcus's side. I should check on our quarters, she said, but didn't move. Your quarters are in Section 14. That section's intact, I know. Still, she stayed. Nira had fallen asleep against Marcus's uninjured shoulder, Kip clutched in her arms. She'd stopped counting at 247, her voice trailing off mid-number as exhaustion claimed her. She's never fallen asleep with anyone but me, Seleth said quietly. Since the collapse. She won't even sleep in the same room as my sister. She's exhausted. It's been a hard day. It's not about the day. Seleth's hand found his, tentatively, as if she wasn't sure she was allowed. It's about you. Marcus looked at the small girl sleeping against him, at the toy clutched in her arms, at the mother whose hand felt surprisingly warm in his. I'm not. He stopped. It started again. I don't know how to be what she needs. You're already what she needs. You've been what she needs since the moment you fixed Kip. Seleth's fingers tightened around his. The question is whether you want to keep being it. I'm only here for another 3 months. The water systems could be extended, or you could leave. Her voice was carefully neutral. No one would blame you for leaving. Would you blame me? Seleth was quiet for a long moment. I would understand, and I would be grateful for what you've already given us. She paused. But my daughter's heart would break. And maybe mine would too. Marcus looked at her then. Really looked. At the exhaustion and fear and hope warring in her expression. At the way she held herself, ready for rejection but still reaching out. I don't know how to be a father, he said. I had a terrible example. I don't know how to trust again. My husband's death made sure of that. This is insane. Completely. They sat in silence, Nira's soft breathing filling the space between them. Somewhere in the shelter, someone was crying. Somewhere else, someone was laughing with relief. I could try, Marcus said finally. I could try. Seleth's hand squeezed his once, hard. That's all anyone can do. 3 months later, Marcus submitted his request to extend his posting on Velorian Station indefinitely. The decision had built slowly, like sediment settling after a flood. There was no single moment, or rather, there were too many moments to count. Nira's face when she mastered her first real circuit. The way Seleth laughed when Marcus mispronounced Velorian words. Breakfast together in Section 14, which had somehow become home. Dinner together, dishes cluttering a table meant for 2 that now permanently held 3 place settings. The Human Resources Office was confused, he told Seleth that evening. Apparently humans don't usually request to stay on damaged stations. Apparently humans don't usually do a lot of things you do. They were sitting on the small balcony of Seleth's quarters. Their quarters, now, though Marcus still had his. Assigned room for appearances. Nira was inside, teaching Kip about the new things she'd learned today, her voice rising and falling with dramatic emphasis. I spoke to my mother, Marcus said. Told her about this. Seleth went still. And? She cried. Then she asked when she could meet her granddaughter. The word hung in the air between them. Granddaughter. It made things real in a way that sharing meals and sleeping spaces hadn't quite managed. What did you tell her? That I'd ask. Marcus turned to face Seleth fully. Nira already calls you Mama. She started calling me. He hesitated. Papa. Seleth's lips quirked. I know. She practiced it for a week before she used it. She was terrified you'd be upset. Upset? Something cracked in Marcus's chest. Why would I be upset? Because you didn't choose to be her father. She chose you. Seleth reached out, cupping his face in her hands, a gesture that still felt new, still made his heart stutter. You could have been her friend, her teacher, her mother's partner. But she chose to make you her father, and she was afraid that was too much. It's not too much. I know. I told her that. Seleth's thumbs traced his cheekbones. But she needed to hear it from you. The balcony door slid open, and Nira appeared with Kip dangling from one hand. I wasn't listening, she said immediately, which meant she definitely had been. Come here. Marcus held out his arm, and she scrambled onto the balcony, inserting herself between them with the ease of long practice. I need to tell you something. She looked up at him, all 4 eyes wide and nervous. I talked to my mother today. She lives very far away, on a planet called Earth. I know about Earth. You showed me pictures. I did, and I told her about you and your mama, and how you fixed me. Nira's brow furrowed. I didn't fix you. You fix things. You did, though. Marcus's voice was thick. I was broken in ways I didn't even know, and then you walked up to my workbench with Kip and you started fixing me. By asking you to fix Kip? By choosing me. He met Seleth's eyes over their daughter's head. Both of you. By choosing me, when I didn't deserve to be chosen. Nira considered this with her usual gravity. That doesn't make sense. Kip was broken, so I found someone to fix him. Then you were sad sometimes, so I found ways to make you happy. Then Mama was lonely, so I made sure you stayed close to her. She shrugged, as if this were the most obvious sequence of events in the universe. That's just what you do with people you love. Marcus couldn't speak. His throat had closed completely. My mother wants to meet you, he managed finally. She called you her granddaughter. Nira's eyes went very round. I have a grandmother? A human grandmother? If you want one? Of course I want one. She bounced in place, nearly knocking Seleth off the balcony edge. Can we call her? Right now? I want to show her Kip, and my circuits, and tomorrow, Seleth said firmly. It's past your bedtime, but tomorrow, Papa will still be here in the morning. Nira looked at Marcus, suddenly uncertain again. Will you be here? He pulled her into a hug, feeling her small arms wrap around his neck, feeling Seleth lean into them both until they were a tangle of human and Velorian limbs. I'll be here, he said, for every morning. For as long as you'll have me. Forever? Forever. Nira pulled back, examining his face with that intense four-eyed focus that had started everything. Whatever she was looking for, she seemed to find it. Good, she said simply. Then she wriggled free and darted back inside, already shouting about all the things she needed to tell her new grandmother. Seleth laughed, low and warm. She's going to be impossible now. She was already impossible, true. She leaned her head against his shoulder. Thank you. For what? For staying. For trying. For being exactly what she needed you to be. Marcus thought about the first day, the crowded relief station, the small girl with the broken toy, the certainty in her eyes when she'd chosen him out of everyone. He hadn't understood then. Hadn't known that a child's intuition could cut through all the barriers adults built, finding the truth underneath. She'd known. Somehow, impossibly, she'd known. I had a good teacher, he said. A very small one, with very strong opinions about toy repairs. Seleth laughed again. Our daughter. Our daughter. The words settled into Marcus like coming home. Our daughter, he agreed. From inside, Nira's voice rose in excitement, explaining to Kip about grandmothers and Earth, and all the new family they'd somehow stumbled into. Marcus listened to the sound of it, his daughter's joy, his partner's warmth, the humming machinery of a station that had become home, and felt something click into place. Like a circuit finally finding its path. Like a broken thing, finally fixed.